We are following some breaking news at this hour. I did want to share this social media post from the Democrats saying that oversight Dems have received new emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate that raise serious questions about Donald Trump and his knowledge of Epstein's horrific crimes. Read them for yourself. It's time to end this cover-up and release the files. This is some file footage of the late Jeffrey Epstein, and I did want to share some more information on this breaking news. Jeffrey Epstein writing in a 2011 email that President Trump had, quote, spent hours at Epstein's house with a victim of sex trafficking, and said in a separate message years later that President Trump knew about the girls, in quotation marks. That's according to communications released today. Now, the emails made public by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee add to the questions about President Trump's friendship with Epstein and about any knowledge that he may have had in what prosecutors call a years-long effort by Epstein to exploit underage girls.
Welcome back. I'm David, and get ready because what just happened in Washington is absolutely shocking. If you still believe Trump has total control over the Capitol, this moment is about to shatter that idea completely. Congress just shot down Trump's latest move to grab more power, and he's furious about it. We're looking at a vote that crossed party lines. Democrats and Republicans united to stop Trump from using an executive order to force a voter ID requirement across the entire country on his own.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act to stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
That's right. Trump wanted to completely skip over Congress and just announce brand new voting rules all by himself before the 2026 midterm elections rolled around. But when the lawmakers shut him down, Trump ran straight to Truth Social and exploded with rage, typing massive messages in all capital letters, going after Republicans from his own party, and insisting that anyone who voted against him was basically helping the Democratic Party steal elections.
A federal judge ruled yesterday that President Trump's request to add a documentary proof of citizenship requirement to the federal voter registration form cannot be enforced. U.S. District Judge Colleen Kohler-Cotelli in Washington, D.C. sided with Democratic and civil rights groups that sued the Trump administration over his executive order he issued back in March that included requiring documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections and that all ballots be received by Election Day. She ruled that the proof of citizenship directive is an unconstitutional violation of the separation of powers, as the administration has argued that such a mandate is necessary to restore public confidence that only Americans are voting in U.S. elections.
This is absolutely wild. We're watching a president who seriously believed he could change election laws just by posting on his phone, and Congress finally had enough and shut him down. Let me break down what happened because the real details are even more shocking than you think. On February 13th, Trump went on Truth Social and announced he was about to sign an executive order forcing nationwide voter ID requirements before the 2026 midterm elections. But here's the kicker. In that exact same post, he straight up admitted that the legal way to make this happen through Congress had completely stalled. So he literally said the quiet part out loud. He confessed that Congress wasn't going to pass his voter ID law, so he decided he'd just do it himself anyway. Then he launched into this wild rant claiming that Democrats refuse to vote for voter ID because they want to continue to cheat in elections. That's how he frames everything. Anyone who stands against his voting rules must be trying to steal elections, according to him. Never mind that voter ID laws are super controversial because they make voting incredibly difficult for students, elderly people, and low-income individuals who don't have easy access to government IDs. To Trump, it's always about cheating, but here's where things get seriously interesting. Congress didn't just ignore his tantrum, they actually voted to block him. And this wasn't some narrow party line vote where Democrats barely won by a hair. This was completely bipartisan. Republicans and Democrats both looked at Trump's crazy plan and said absolutely not. You cannot just rewrite election rules all by yourself. That almost never happens anymore in our divided political climate. So the fact that it actually did happen tells you exactly how serious and dangerous this situation really is. Now, why did Congress finally decide to find some courage? Part of it comes down to timing. This vote happened right after a bunch of other incidents where Trump tried to bypass Congress completely and got absolutely smacked down. Just days before this, the Senate advanced a bipartisan war powers resolution because Trump launched a military raid in Venezuela without any congressional authorization whatsoever. Senator Jack Reed released a statement saying Congress needed to reassert its constitutional authority and calling Trump's actions a profound constitutional failure. That's Senate speak for, "This is absolutely insane and we cannot let it keep happening." Then during that same week, the Supreme Court ruled against Trump on his tariff powers. Trump had been trying to impose what he called reciprocal tariffs, basically making up brand new taxes on imports because he didn't like other countries' trade policies. And the court was like, yeah, no, tariffs are taxes and only Congress has the power to levy taxes. That's literally written right there in the Constitution. The ruling was 6-3, and even some of Trump's own appointees voted against him. Legal experts called it Trump touching the limit of his power, which is just a polite way of saying he got absolutely told to sit down. So Congress is watching all of this unfold. The Venezuela raid, the tariff overreach, Trump announcing major policies on Truth Social like he's passing actual laws from his phone, and they're finally realizing that if they don't push back right now, they're basically completely irrelevant. Because Trump has spent the entire last year acting like Congress is just a suggestion he can ignore. He tried to cap credit card interest rates just by posting about it on social media. He tried to change entire trade policies through tweets. And now he wants to rewrite fundamental voting rules the exact same way. Congress finally said, okay, this absolutely has to stop right now. But here's the really disturbing thing. Trump doesn't care, not even a little bit. His response to getting blocked wasn't to back down or negotiate or work with Congress like a normal president would. His response was to immediately go on Truth Social and rage post about how everyone who voted against him is a traitor and Democrats are actively trying to steal elections. And he didn't just complain, he straight up hinted that he's going to issue the executive order anyway, which brings us to the massive question everyone's asking. Can he actually do that? Can Trump just sign an executive order and force nationwide voter ID requirements on the entire country? The short answer is absolutely not. The long answer is probably not. But he's definitely going to try anyway, and it's going to be a complete mess. Here's exactly why. Elections in the United States are run by individual states, not the federal government. The Constitution specifically gives states the power to set the times, places, and manner of elections. Congress can regulate federal elections, but the president doesn't have any unilateral power to just change voting rules on a whim. That's not a thing that exists in our system. An executive order cannot override state election laws, and it definitely cannot create brand new requirements for who gets to vote. But Trump absolutely doesn't care about any of that. He's been governing entirely by executive order for his whole second term. His strategy is basically this: sign it, let someone sue, fight it in court, and maybe by the time it gets resolved, he'll have already gotten exactly what he wanted. We've seen this exact playbook with tariffs, with immigration policy, with trade agreements. He just does whatever he wants and dares people to try to stop him. And sometimes it actually works because the legal process is incredibly slow, and by the time a court finally rules, the damage is already completely done. So if Trump goes ahead and issues this voter ID executive order, what actually happens next? States will sue immediately, guaranteed. Civil rights groups will sue. It goes to federal court and probably gets blocked by a judge within just days. Then it gets tied up in appeals for months and months. And in the meantime, we're heading straight into the 2026 midterms with total chaos about who gets to vote and what the actual rules are, which honestly might be the entire point of this strategy. Because even if Trump loses big in court, he gets to spend the entire election season claiming the system is completely rigged and Democrats are cheating, and the only reason he might lose is because they wouldn't let him fix elections. His base absolutely eats that narrative up. Trump's entire political brand at this point is, everyone's out to get me, the system is rigged, I'm the only one fighting for you. And every single time Congress or the courts block him, it just reinforces that victim narrative even more. So even when he loses, he kind of wins because he gets to play the victim and fire up his supporters to an absolute frenzy. But here's what's genuinely different this time. This isn't just about Trump's ego or his political brand anymore. This is about the actual mechanics of democracy itself. Voting rules determine who gets to participate in elections. And if Trump successfully rewrites those rules right before a midterm election where his party might lose control, that's not just norm breaking. That's straight up election manipulation. And the fact that Congress is finally pushing back hard, the fact that even some Republicans are saying absolutely no to this, tells you exactly how dangerous they think this situation really is. Now, Trump's response has been to attack those Republicans publicly and viciously. He's calling them rhinos. He's threatening to primary every single one of them. He's saying they're actively helping Democrats cheat. And that's going to have serious consequences because we're about to head straight into primary season for the 2026 midterms. Any Republican who voted against Trump on this issue is going to face a Trump-backed challenger who runs entirely on, "I would have let Trump save elections." So even though Congress managed to block him this time, Trump is making absolutely sure there's a brutal political price to pay. And that's the part that should genuinely worry everyone. Because the message Trump is sending to his entire party is crystal clear. If you don't let me do whatever I want, I will completely destroy your career. And the more Republicans who get primered out for daring to stand up to him, the fewer people are going to be willing to do it next time. Which means the next time Trump tries something exactly like this, and there absolutely will be a next time, Congress might not have the votes to stop him at all. Let's talk about the bigger pattern we're seeing here. This isn't just about one vote or one presidential tantrum. This is about Trump systematically trying to grab powers that the Constitution absolutely doesn't give him. And we're watching in real time to see if Congress, the courts, or anyone else is actually going to stop him. The answer so far has been maybe, sometimes, it depends. And that's the massive problem. Because every single time Trump gets told no, he just tries again in a completely different way. We've already seen it with tariffs, with military action, with trade policy. He pushes and pushes until either he gets exactly what he wants or everyone gets so exhausted from fighting him that they just let it slide. And if that happens with voting rules, if Trump actually manages to rewrite who gets to vote right before an election where his party might lose, that's not just a political fight anymore. That's a full-blown constitutional crisis. Because at that point, we're not just arguing about policy anymore. We're arguing about whether elections actually mean anything at all. The timing of all this is absolutely critical. We're heading straight into the 2026 midterms, and Trump is clearly panicking. He knows his party could easily lose the House or the Senate in November. And if that happens, his entire second-term agenda is completely dead. No more executive orders rubber-stamped by Congress. No more judicial appointments. No more passing whatever laws he wants. So he's desperately trying to lock in advantages right now. Stricter voter ID rules, suppression tactics, anything that makes it harder for people who don't support him to actually vote. And he's framing it all as election integrity and stopping cheating. But really, it's just about keeping power at any cost. CNN reported that Trump has been absolutely obsessed with the midterms for months now, even floating completely wild ideas about postponing them or changing the fundamental rules. And this voter ID push was supposed to be a major part of that strategy. Make it harder to vote, claim any Democratic wins are fraud, and set up 2028 by saying the entire system is rigged against him. But Congress just threw a massive wrench in that whole plan, and Trump is absolutely furious because now he actually has to compete in a fair election. So what happens next in this wild saga? Trump's probably going to issue the executive order anyway, despite everything. He's already hinted at it multiple times, and his whole brand is, "I do what I want and dare you to stop me." So expect an executive order to drop in the next few weeks. Expect immediate lawsuits from states and civil rights groups. Expect the whole thing to end up in federal court where it'll probably get blocked pretty quickly. But in the meantime, we're going to have literal months of chaos about voting rules right as we head into the crucial midterms. And that chaos absolutely benefits Trump. Even if he loses badly in court, he gets to spend the entire campaign season talking about how the system is rigged against him and Democrats are cheating and the courts are biased. His base completely believes that stuff and it fires them up like nothing else. And it gives him a ready-made excuse if Republicans lose big. So win or lose legally, Trump gets something valuable out of this fight. But here's what genuinely gives me some hope. Congress actually pushed back in a meaningful way. For the first time in a really long time, Republicans and Democrats worked together to tell Trump absolutely no on something that really matters. And yeah, Trump's going to punish them brutally for it. And yeah, some of those Republicans are probably going to lose their seats in primaries. But they did it anyway, despite knowing the consequences. They looked at Trump trying to rewrite fundamental election rules and said, "This is way too far. We cannot let this happen." And that actually matters. Because every single time Trump tries to grab power and someone manages to stop him, it sets an important precedent. It shows that checks and balances still exist in our system, that the Constitution still means something, that not everyone's willing to just roll over and let him do whatever he wants. The more often that happens, the harder it gets for Trump to claim unlimited authority. Now, don't get me wrong, this fight is far from over. Trump's going to keep pushing harder and harder. Congress might completely cave next time, and we're probably headed for a constitutional crisis before the midterms even arrive. But this vote, this specific vote, was a genuine line in the sand, and we're about to find out if that line actually holds or if Trump just smashes right through it like everything else. The bottom line is absolutely simple. Trump tried to force nationwide voter ID through executive order alone, bypassing all normal procedures. Congress voted bipartisan to block him. Trump responded with an all-caps meltdown on Truth Social, viciously attacking his own party and threatening brutal primaries. This is part of a clear pattern where Trump keeps trying to grab powers he absolutely doesn't have, and institutions keep pushing back. But every single time they push back, Trump figures out brand new ways to test the limits even further. And with the midterms rapidly approaching, the stakes literally couldn't be higher. Because if Trump actually succeeds in rewriting voting rules to benefit himself, the democracy we think we have might not exist for much longer.